we're live. So, just to give everybody a heads up, it's been a warm week in Southern California. It's cooler today, but it is creating some moisture in the air.
God.
It is moist.
Oh my God.
And it is muggy. It was muggy this morning in our place, and I believe it was also feeling hot and sticky in your place too. So we both have windows open. So just so everybody knows, windows are open. People are walking outside. Small children might be running past. Crows might be beckoning. Airplanes are overhead. You never know what's going to pop up, and I may or may not edit them out later. So you may just have to deal, because we're having an emergency broadcast. Okay, it's not an emergency.
No,
But it was kind of one of those weird things that it was unplanned. We'll just say it was unplanned.
It's an urgency broadcast.
There you
Spirit
go.
was
it's
like,
an urgency.
Hey, look at this thing you stumbled upon, and now go talk about it amongst yourselves. And we thought we'd bring you along for the ride, pun intended.
So one of the weirds that you will discover as you, if you so choose to continue this ride with us, is that spirits, the guides, your peeps, your spiritual peeps, are going to come through with stuff at what seems like really weird times in really strange ways. That whole, you might look back, some people might look to the God is acting in mysterious ways. Yeah, well, it's not as like mystical and pretty like that all the time. Sometimes it happens just in like ways that make you go, huh? Like, this is how you're choosing to talk to me? I mean, I get it, I think, but okay. And not surprisingly for both of us, because we both have ties to Disney, both from our childhood and because we happened to work for the company a long time ago. But things will come up and they will use that stuff as a trigger, especially I think because we were so connected to it as kids. I mean, when you grow up in Southern California, especially in the, born in the late 70s, mid to late 70s to early 80s, like I can guarantee you that my first trip there was in the womb, like, and that Disney movies and Golden Series books were probably happening while I was in the womb. And so that's just a part. It's like it's a part of my DNA. And I'm sure it's a part of my DNA for many reasons. But anyhow, over the last couple of days, there's news out right now because there's a new ride, a new attraction opening up in Walt Disney World in a couple of weeks. On your birthday, by the way, Little Miss, opening on your birthday.
So much stuff is happening on my birthday. I just have to say that it's because I'm awesome.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's been previews. I watch theme park YouTubers. It's one of my guilty pleasures.
I don't think you really feel guilty.
I don't really feel guilty about it. I really don't. Yeah, I don't feel guilty about a lot of things that most people would probably think that I should, but I don't. And some things have been triggered with this particular ride. So the ride that I'm talking about is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And I'm sure for most of the country, they know what the Guardians of the Galaxy is. They know that it's part of the Marvel universe. And we just put out, or will be putting out, or you have or you have not listened yet, I don't know. There is a podcast that we have done, that we have recorded, that will most likely be out before you get this podcast, that is all about 80s music and 80s stuff and the shit that it triggered for us, and it's still triggering for us. And this week, it is triggering us through the release of this ride and the previews. So over the last couple of days, pass holders and vloggers and cast members who have had the early access previews have been posting online. And one of the vloggers that I watched is actually pretty funny. They put out a live stream, and I watched the playback last night for a little bit and caught a story about them riding this ride. But the video for it didn't come out till today. So I kind of already heard the story, and it intrigued me because this person, we'll just say this person is probably in my mind, they are not people that normally come across as extremely spiritual people or enlightened people or anything like that. Not to say that they're lovely people. There's a reason why I watch them. But very like, we're in the suburbs, we're vloggers, we do theme park and vacations and, what's happening with the toddler and things like that.
They have a specific niche that doesn't include spirit guides and light codes.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not even a little bit. Not in the slightest. However, she became very emotional when she rode this ride. The gist of the ride is that you're visiting this this galactic hub in this planet or this other worldly destination, and I believe you're just supposed to be there for a visit, and then things happen as they do in the Marvel universe, and now you're being kind of coerced into helping to save Earth. And part of the way that you're doing this is through going back in time. So, of course, because it's Guardians of the Galaxy, they're going to include 80s because that's a big part of Quill and his
Wait, they went back in time?
Thing. Yeah, they went back in time. That was the
missed the whole thing.
There's lots of videos out there right now, and I'm sure there's more coming over the next month or so. Yeah, that's the rewind part of the cosmic rewind. Is you're going back to when the Big Bang happened.
No,
so that you can get a hold of the thing.
But isn't that the original concept, and then everything gets derailed because big badass universal dude steals the fire orb thing, and then you get sent on a mission to rescue the fire orb? But you don't go back
go back through time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you have to go back through time. Yeah. That's the backwards part.
I missed that part.
They rewind. They go back in time so they can get the piece and then travel back through the nifty portal and then bring it back to present day. Anyhow, not important. But important all in the same turn, because it kind of all brings together some of the things that we were just talking about. And like in the case of this particular blogger, when she wrote it, the song that they were given, which I believe there's like 5 or 6 songs from the 80s that, depending on, where in the cycle you are, you will get a particular song to match your journey. And theirs was Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, one of my personal favorites. Definitely one of those ones that like I played over and over and over and over again.
Songs from the Big Chair. The Big Chair was a good chair.
Absolutely. It was a good chair. It was a very good chair. It was a very comfy chair. I like that chair.
Mm-hmm.
If I owned that chair, I would have never thrown that chair out. Just saying. But when she got off the ride, and she's not generally a crier, like she doesn't usually present emotionally on camera. Now, what she does off camera, I have no idea. But she usually does not present as very emotional on camera. And she could not stop herself from crying. She was very emotional, and she had a really beautiful story around her experience, and it completely triggered me. And then I've watched a couple other videos of ride throughs, and different ones in different sections will completely trigger me again, very emotionally. And you just had the same experience. Like, it was just gnawing on me. So, of course, I had to send it to you, and you were in the middle of something else. But you watched it and you had similar experience.
Yes, that is usually how it works. One of us, usually Jamie, finds something random, cries about it, and then says, "Here, you have to watch this and cry too." And then the other one watches it and cries too. And then we get some sort of big spiritual reveal about why we were crying and what made us cry and why it's so important. And then we have to share it with all of you. So the thing that made me cry about it actually wasn't her experience. It wasn't her tears or her story. It was, I fucking burst into tears the second we went into the queue and I saw the 3-dimensional sort of diorama map of whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. I don't know. I haven't kept up on my Marvel Universe stuff. But I saw that map, and in my head, first I just started crying, and I was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck? Why?" I wasn't. It's first of all, it galls me when Disney gets me because I guess I have some leftover frustrations with the actual Comforter.
We
So
have some business.
a little bit
We
of
have some business that
bit of
triggers us.
leftover work to do. but
Yeah.
but it doesn't change the fact that they hire brilliant people, and those brilliant people were inspired growing up by the company just as we were. And those brilliant people, because they're
These are
so
some of the people that
brilliant,
inspired us.
maybe. I don't know who
A
worked
lot
on
of
this.
them are.
I don't know who worked on this one. All I know is that, there are young and old Disney brilliant people working on these things, and their brilliance shines through regardless of the company fuckery. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. So that's part of what gets me, is that, it triggers that piece of me deep inside that is still but it triggers that part of me deep inside that still relates to, I was supposed to do that as, you know, for part of my life. So it triggers that piece of me that resonates with being a creative in that way and in that form. But there was a different level of me that was triggered when I viewed that 3D map or diorama or whatever they want to call it. And something inside of me said that is a future timeline that I'm already in,
Yeah.
and that you're already in,
Yeah. That's
that we're already in, and I just couldn't stop crying. The second the characters came into play, tears gone. I was fine. This is just a Disney ride. It's cool. Whatever. But when I saw that map, I was just like, oh my God, they know. But
yeah.
I didn't consciously know. I didn't know what they knew. I couldn't tell you unless I was tapped into that weird liminal space where the words are coming out of your face, but you don't have any sort of conscious thought about what you're saying.
Totally get you. Yeah. So for me, similar things happen. So the overall complexity of the Disney thing for me, I have similar issues that'll pop up. I feel like I've been able to do quite a bit of healing of that, but I know that there's still more there.
You mean of
But I think
the Disney baggage?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I'm sure I'll be peeling back those layers for a while, but I feel like I've let go of a large part of the animosity. It's not until I see them doing the, like, repeating the same things, and then I get triggered, and then I get angry, and then I have words, and then I calm down, and then it's a whole other cycle that I go through. But anyhow, no, in this particular case, I think I think the big thing is because we had just recorded not too long ago this episode on the whole 80s music and how the 80s were really priming us for a lot of work, and there was a lot of messaging, like a lot of messaging, um in a time where it seemed like a lot of things were really still asleep, as far as, like, this was a time when, like, I couldn't have gone out and picked up a book at the bookstore on, the little professor was not going to be carrying any books on metaphysical knowledge at this point in time at the mall. Like, that it just wasn't something that you were going to see, because people weren't openly speaking about it in that way yet. But people were being triggered to create art and artistic things that were leaving a lot of very impactful, very long lasting messages that we're now coming back around in a cycle, and things have lined up in such a way that we are totally aware now
Mm-hmm.
of what it was that was left for us, that we were picking up on. And it triggers me when I see people that are totally not spiritually aware in the way that we speak about being spiritually aware, react, and you can tell that they don't know what it is, but they're highly, highly affected, and they're thinking about it, and you can
Mm-hmm.
tell they're thinking about it, and they're trying to process it, and that something big is coming up for them, and pretty soon, welcome to the club, because you're going to get it. And it's exciting, and it's very emotional for me, because something that I've always been tied to in my work here on the planet, and being a part of this cycle, and having been through many cycles before, is the potential of humanity to get the message,
Mm-hmm.
and start doing the things, even when things seem bleak or disturbing, or like there's a lot of chaos and turmoil, that there's still this rumble underneath all of that, of things coming together and lining up. And then I think, in my own way, as I'm sitting here and I'm, we're having a text conversation because you're busy doing something else, and I've just gone through 8 million videos trying to find the perfect video of a ride through with "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" as the song, and there's really not one out there right now. But watching it over and over again, more things started coming through, especially, you know, that song is a big trigger because it has a lot to say. And, hey, if you haven't listened in a while, go look up some Tears for Fears on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever platform you listen to.
Well, oddly, they
But
did just come out with a new album.
did they really?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen anything yet. Now I'm going to have
Mm-hmm.
to go look at that. Well, I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it later. But kind of what they were showing me, or what I was showing myself, because this is what was coming through. Like, so I have these episodes where I you laughing at me.
Well, the way you said it was funny. I have these episodes.
Well, I do have these episodes. I have these episodes. Well, I want people to understand, because I'm sure there are other people that are going to eventually be listening to this that are like, is that what that is? I had no idea. And you're welcome. So I have these episodes where I will feel internally a very strong vibration. And it is like, imagine you just had 50,000 cups of incredibly strong coffee, and the caffeine is coursing through your veins, and your body is like, what in the hell did you just do to me? I'm going to explode. So that kind of jitteriness that's on the borderline of it's uncomfortable, borderline painful. And the last time that we were in session together,
you and I.
Yes, you and I. The last time that I had regression time with Miss Heather, we discovered that this is a process of me basically putting my fragmented pieces back together. So this is me coming together with the portion of myself that I had to say goodbye to in order to be here, and that I have, we become, as we go on this journey, you separate so that you can have the journey. But it's kind of a tricky thing, and you kind of have to tell yourself some lies, and do a little bit of, you have to create a little bit of trauma so that you don't immediately want to go back.
A little bit.
Look, I'm trying to be nice here. Yes. You put yourself through hell.
Let's not couch our terms. A little bit. Okay.
You tell yourself some pretty ugly lies, and you go through some pretty horrible shit so that you don't immediately want to go running back to where you just came from, because your work is now here. But as you start to heal and pick up your pieces and do soul retrieval and shadow work and all of those things, you are very much, if we want to use another Disney reference, you're sewing Peter's shadow back on to his little tootsies. You're bringing those pieces together again, and you start noticing all of the little things that are like, oh, that's a reference. That's a reference. Like, that's a spiritual reference. That's a spiritual reference. And some of the randomest shit becomes, or you realize, it doesn't become, it just is. It is a reference. It is a trigger item for you. It is a little breadcrumb that you left, or that part of your spirit team left for you to pick up, to realize, holy shit, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. I am not making this up. This is totally for real. Because sometimes you will catch yourself saying things, and you will be writing things or doing things and going, I just don't know about this. Like, this is like, look, I've opened up myself up to some crazy stuff, but like this has to be nuts. And then something like this happens to validate it, and you're like, holy shit, I totally did not make that up. It is totally a thing. It's totally a thing, and it's out there. And now I'm watching other people get it and experience it, and they're not even like there yet, but I can see the glimmer. I can see them getting it. I can see them picking up on it. And it's just, as we always love to say, it's mind-boggling. Eventually we're going to have to let people in on like where we got some of our weird screwed up terms. We've picked up a lot along the way.
I mean, mind-boggling is just another Disney reference. It's just a private Disney reference. When you got a boss who says stuff like that, you just you squirrel away those little gems,
and they become
part of your life.
Yeah, it's like, this person was my superior. Okay, all right, yeah.
Anyway, not to be mean girls or anything.
No,
lighthearted ribbing with a touch of a razor's edge. No big deal. All amongst friends. We're all friends here.
Oh yeah. um this was interesting, and it was totally cool because so as I'm sitting there watching all these videos, I'm having one of these episodes again. And one of the things that I told myself during the regression was that it's okay. It's a rather large surge of energy that happens when the pieces are coming back together, and it's your body can handle it. It's just not used to it yet. So it's going to take a while. Chill, and when it happens, try to slow down. Remember to breathe. Breathe through it. You're going to be okay. And I will say that it is starting to go much quicker now when it happens. Like it used to be that it would be 10 minutes, it could be half an hour, it could be an hour, and I would just be miserable. And now it's usually maybe lasts a couple of minutes, if that. And as long as I'm doing the thing and breathing and calming myself down and slowing myself down, it's fine. But there's usually a lot of visual stuff that's happening. And visually, you were talking about it's a future
Timeline.
timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were showing me is that its timeline's collapsing. So everything is starting to bleed through. And one of the things that this individual that I watched experienced, um, was missing her mother who's passed on. And it was very, very strong for her while she was enjoying this ride. And what they were showing me was, well, for her in that moment, what it triggered was the veils of separation basically disappearing, and her mom was with her at that time, and that's why it hit her so strongly. And in fact, it was funny because when I was watching the live stream last night, as she was talking about it, it was happening to her all over again. I could see it on her whole face and body. And she was like, she kept trying to like stuff it back down. And she's like, okay, I have to stop talking about it. I really have to stop. I have to stop talking about it or I'll cry.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, and I think it's missed on a lot of people who go through things like this, especially if they haven't really consciously embarked on the awakening journey, as it were, is that what's happening there is this creative bomb goes off in your face and leads you to moments of absolute abandonment of your ego and your protective self. Ego and protective self being the same thing. And it's through this burst of creativity and the codes within it that make you unconsciously aware, if that's even a thing, subconsciously aware. I feel like it's not even subconscious. It connects with keys inside of you that allow you to open up to this experience. And the second you make a handshake with this experience, it goes to work creating a link between you and the other thing that you connect with. For some people, it's probably just pure joy or pure enjoyment. But I think for most people, they won't even connect what happens after they ride the ride to the ride itself because they just won't be
No.
aware that that's how it works. And I think for her, it was she, you know, her guides knew that she was a Disney fan and they got her there, didn't they? She had this
Mm-hmm.
experience for a reason and it wasn't coincidental. And, you know, the groundwork was laid prior to her even setting foot in the park.
Yeah.
And the ride was coded to assist in whatever work was necessary or whatever gifts were going to come through. Because it's a gift to reconnect with your lost loved ones. And now she has that code within her. And she will find more and more ways to feel closer to her mom that she would have
Yeah.
never even thought of before, but they just will appear to her.
Yeah. And first it may be in the form of, that was such a great feeling. I want to experience that again. I'm going to keep riding that ride in the hopes that turns up for me every time. And it may for a while until she doesn't need the crutch anymore. But I have a feeling that for her, it's already got her. And one of her other funny things that she's like, I'm not even a Guardians of the Galaxy fan. Like, I don't even like it that much. Like, I really don't care about it. Like, it's cute and all, and it's great, but I'm not a huge, like, it's not really my thing. But wow, what an amazing ride. And it wasn't just the other thing that she connected with, it wasn't just the music or like the setup of the ride. It was the feeling of the ride. She kept referring to feeling like she was floating through heaven. And I think that's something that we all have a past memory of, being free in that way. And it's a nice feeling. and and when things like that get triggered, it's like, it's, we refer to it to several different things being whammied. Back in our days when we were paranormal investigating on the Queen Mary, we refer to it as being Sarad, which is a conjunction to an entity that we have discovered more things about since, but on the ship. But it's literally like somebody reaching their hand inside your heart and just squeezing, like, like not Kali Ma type squeezing.
They're not trying to rip it out. They're just trying to light it up.
Rip it out. They're just really, really making you aware of that area and feeling deeply. So whatever is in front of you,
beyond making you aware of that area, they're trying to make you aware of what it feels like to be less in your head and more in your heart. They're trying to get you to tap into not thinking about it. Like, if she goes back and she rides that ride, it's not going to be the same. The feeling is going to be less and less each time. She'll enjoy it, but it won't be that first time. And the reason is because she will be doing it for a specific outcome. And that's not how this stuff works. This stuff doesn't work for a specific outcome. It works to get you connected to your heart space so that you can recognize that feeling and start to work the maze backwards, is the best way I can think to say it. It's so that you can understand that this type of experience is available to you, and then use it as a catalyst to work the problem backwards so you can see how to get to it in the future.
Yeah. And it's usually something that's going to, because you're not thinking about it, it blindsides you. It comes out of nowhere. It gives you a wallop. It's like, being punched, and but in a nice way. In a nice way. In a slightly overwhelming, I feel all the feels, all of them, as many as possible, to whatever the there is no quantifying. I feel absolutely all the feels right now in my heart space. And I am on my knees and I am sobbing and I have love for everything, and there is no room for hate or fear or any of those things. It is just blindingly emotionally charged love, not a syrupy way.
Not schmaltz.
Not schmaltz. in a very profound way. Now, I refer to it as ooey gooey.
Ugh.
Because that's how it comes across to me. Because I like ooey gooey. Heather does not like ooey gooey, so it is not ooey gooey to her. So you're gonna have your own reaction to it when it happens to you. But it was very interesting because as I'm watching these videos and I continue to re-experience these things, and they're kind of opening up like other windows and showing me like other bits of messages. It was really cool. It was really positive. I know that it's really hard right now because a lot of shit is happening at once, and there is like, you're not imagining this. There is a lot happening at once, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Uh, we were just talking about it in the previous recording as well, that, at the time that we're recording this, we just had a huge eclipse full moon. We are in retrograde. There's all of these things happening, which people normally have a really kind of pre-ingrained fear or hesitation. It makes a lot of people very hesitant, brings up a lot of anxiety. It brings up a lot of triggers, and it is bringing up a ton of triggers right now. But one of the important things to remember is that usually when you are triggered, you're being triggered for a reason. You're being triggered because you have an opportunity to look at that again and view it possibly in a different way, or in an expanded way. And if you can get past the fear and going directly to the old place where you normally go when this sort of thing comes up for you,
the old programs,
if you can get past that, the old programs, the old systems, the old red flags, if you can look past that, if you can get yourself in a state of calm long enough to go, okay, start asking some questions, start investigating. Why now? Why is this coming up like this? What tools do I have in my back pocket that I can use on this that's different from what I've done before? How can I see this in a new way? How can I make this work for me to my advantage instead of being a hindrance? How do I make it a platform that I can build off of for my future? And that kind of starts the healing process. And the guides are really, really excited when we take the opportunity to do things like this, because then it gives them a chance to kind of play with us and show us a different side of whatever that is. It's kind of like, and if we're going to continue to use theme park analogies, it's kind of like when you're little and you remember a ride that you went on when you were, very, very young, and it freaked the hell out of you. And then as you became a teenager, you rode it again and decided it was really no big effing deal. And that now it's your favorite ride. And now you can ride it all day long, and you have no idea why you were so freaked out before. There's opportunities that you can take with some of the things that are coming up. And not all of them are going to be that simple. And if you don't feel like you can take that step yet, that's fine. Just flag it in your mind, earmark it so that you can come back to it when you feel like you're in a place where you can, and take a look at it again and see if you can't come up with either a different way of approaching it or a new perspective on it that is not so scary or not so rooted in fear. And I think that's why, we have kind of chosen these types of things for ourselves, to trigger ourselves. Something as, innocuous as a ride at a theme park, to be a trigger for either work that needs to be done, or work that, or confirming that you are doing the work, or showing you, it's like reaching a new level on a video game, surprise, you've unlocked. Makes me want to go back and watch Scott Pilgrim.
Well, and
I
just
love
like
the
and just like with
oh
what?
no, I was just going to say what is it? You've unlocked self-respect or something like that, and he opens up
Oh.
his chest and all the coins fall out and he floats and it's fun. Anyway,
Um,
continue.
but just like with video games, when you unlock a new level, oftentimes it looks almost identical to a level you've already been on, but there's greater difficulty. So
Greater
don't get
difficulty and often
discouraged.
greater rewards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But don't get discouraged because one of the things that we tend to do is we're like, I'm here again. Didn't I do this already? Like, what the hell? How many times do I have to learn this lesson? And there are layers to these lessons. It's not just one lesson. It's one lesson that it looks this way. That would be like saying, wait, I'm in 8th grade now. I have to take math. I just did this all the other grades. You mean I have to do it again? It's the same thing, You have to learn the different levels.
Great. Now I have to learn the new math. Ugh.
No, what? No, what? Why? What? Is that a thing they're making you do? That's mean. You don't have to actually do math, do you?
Oh, personally, not right
Yeah.
now. I don't
Oh,
know. Thank
okay. Well, I'm like,
goodness.
you don't have kids, so you don't have to learn the new math. And I thought maybe it was a school thing, and I panicked, as you can hear.
No, I did my time, as they
Mm-hmm.
say. What was it,
You
two
did.
semesters ago? I had to go back and do it. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's a really good example because I have had a fear of math practically my entire life. I have
Mm-hmm.
been horrible at it. To be honest, though, I really haven't been horrible at it. Here's what
No.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
I had a horrible teacher who had her own shit that she was going through and her own expectations for the kids in her class. And I was not meeting those expectations. And she picked on me and she made me feel horrible about myself. And I was incredibly, incredibly insecure about my math skills. Now, this experience happened when I was in the 5th grade. 5th grade. I'm almost
Mm-hmm.
46 years old. It took
Mm-hmm.
until 2 semesters ago in college, many, 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 many moons later, to stare that in the face. And trust me, I kicked and screamed and cried and nervous breakdown my entire way through that semester. It was not easy peasy. It was not a breeze. It was not okay. But I learned things about myself. I learned that I could do it. I also learned that I have a particular quirk when it comes to numbers. Um, Kind of like a dyslexic thing. So I either don't see the numbers or I see them backwards, or like I have a hard time seeing duplicates. Like if a number pops up multiple times, I will tend to just skip over it. Um, but I ended that class with a B plus, which is something that I don't think I had. That's a grade that I don't think I had gotten in math since the 2nd grade, to be honest. But and I came really close because I had a couple assignments and I think one test that I really didn't do well on, and I was having a really hard time getting certain things, and I reached out to my professor and was like, should I really don't feel like I'm getting this. I really don't feel like I'm going to be able to do this. Should I back out of the class? And she was very lovely and took a little bit of extra time with me and went through all of my assignments and said, look, understand this. Even if you fail the final, even if you get absolutely horrible, horrible on the final, you're still going to pass this class with a C. Like, you only need this very slim amount of points to pass. Please, please, please stick with it, because I think you can do it. And that was so helpful. I think it was very healing to have another instructor say, no, you have this. Like, just because you didn't get a few things doesn't mean that you didn't get enough to benefit. What you did get is fine. Like, don't screw that up. Don't throw it all away just because it's not perfect, which has also been a huge lesson in my life. Don't throw it away just because it's not perfect. Is damn. That's another big lesson. I mean, and I'm sure a lot of us go through that. I know that you have issues with that as well, miss.
Hey, I try very hard not to throw babies out with the bathwater, okay?
I know. And you're doing great. You're doing great at it. I think we're both doing great at it right now, to be honest. But, it's hard when triggers come up, and it is hard to be able to distance yourself enough from those deep grooves that you've created that says to you there is no possible way you can make it through this sort of thing again. But you have to remind yourself that you made it through it once. Like, you did actually already make it. You are on the other side of it. And it doesn't have to be that way again. And it doesn't have to be that way every time. And, give yourself some grace and some space and some love and compassion, as sappy as it sounds. Just, do yourself the favor of trying. And if you don't make it this time, that's fine. There will be another opportunity, because there always is. There always is. You're never going to show up late to your own party. You're not missing anything. You're going to get it. It's a matter of when the energy and frequency lines up in such a way to where it unlocks that particular code for you that says, hey, guess what? You get to do this again, and this time it's not going to suck so bad. And all it takes really is a couple of times of experiencing that before you're like, all right, bring it on. What's next? I'm ready to tackle. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have times again where things are going to suck. Of course, sometimes things are going to suck. And you're going to be like, man, I was rocking it. And then there goes the rug again. But, when you can lean on that, but I just had this really awesome experience, and the rug didn't come out from under me then. And when you can kind of lean on that a little bit more, it's really helpful. It's really helpful. But there's shit lining up right now. It seems like everything is out of whack. And sometimes you have to shake everything up, and everything, it's like you have to fall apart to fall together. There's so many cliches that you can say that really describe what's happening right now. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of weird happening. There's a lot of tension happening. But it's happening because there's no more room for things to remain as they were. We are pushing through a cycle of growth. We are coming into a new place. We are opening up to new things. And even though it looks on the surface right now like the past is repeating itself, perhaps it is, but the outcome can and will be different. Even if it looks right now like things are going to happen, you can look at a situation and go, oh, man, why are we reverting back to that? We're not. It appears as though we are. But really what it is the opportunity to go, you know what? No. We're not going to do that again. Not like that. It's it's going to shift, and the shift may not be immediate, at least in a very visible, in your face, I know it's different sort of a way, but it is happening. And I know that it's not always comforting to hear, well, it's going to take a while. It's like, well, guess what? This shit happened over eons and eons and eons. And as they like to keep reminding me, look, honey, you didn't create that overnight, and it's not going to get solved overnight. So, keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's, it's very, very interesting right now. There's a lot of things that just continually come up and resurface. And the creativity. Like I feel like that's something that they've been pushing a lot lately, and the concept of play, and which I know you love.
Well,
And
I do love it, but I don't make it an agenda because I love it. I make it an agenda because my guides make it an agenda. And if they're repeating something, then it's important. So,
I feel like you get
and
it.
especially I do get it. And play is especially important because it's the quickest way to make things easier on yourself. And it seems to be the thing that people, the grown-ups, most resist. Because we have a lot of stories that were instilled in us by our parents and by media and by society that say, if you're not working hard, you're hardly working. And you'll never be successful with an attitude like that. And show your work ethic and prove yourself. And do you deserve it? I mean, even religion says this. Do you deserve it? I don't think you've shown that you deserve it. You have to prove it, that you deserve a good thing. Prove that you deserve your abundance, and it's such bullshit, and it's so gaslighty, craptastic, stupid, because that's not the message at all. The message is things were easier when you were a child, the trauma inducing experiences aside, but when you were just yourself and could be in your own mind and your own imagination and perceive things your own way without anyone telling you were wrong, because maybe necessarily no one was paying attention in that moment. Those moments of play with this reality are how it's meant to be going forward. And the thing that stops that from happening is a society that has built itself up over hundreds of years of trauma. And it's a distortion of what reality we're really supposed to be playing in, which is why it seems so cruel and why it seems so punishing. But play is the quickest route through that distortion. It punches a hole right through that distortion that's clouding our reality.
Now, I know that you just wrote a blog post kind of on this whole subject, right? Like, I haven't had the opportunity to read it yet because I was just going through all of this stuff. But
it's
do you want to talk about that?
I mean, the blog post is what I spoke of the last time we did the podcast. So it was just me writing down for people the cycle of manifestation and where you get stuck in it. The interesting thing that came out in this particular blog post, which if you want to read it, it's on my website, which is www.thesharedspacehealing.com. And it's under blogs. But the thing that I ended up writing, there was one sentence that stood out to me. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote it. But it said something along the lines of, the hardest part of manifesting anything is allowing it to happen.
Amen to that, sister friend.
I was like, you know what? Preach. It is. God damn it. Like that's the part that gets in my way every time, is that I think that I should be something else. I should have other things. I should be doing it a different way. I should be modeling myself after other successful businesses. I should be doing what other teachers are doing. I should be on YouTube. I have so many shoulds. It's amazing I can move during the day. But that's the thing, is that I've been working very hard to give up my shoulds. And as I give them up, there's this empty space that happens when you begin to give up your shoulds. And the empty space feels really wrong because there's a story in all of us that says you shouldn't have empty space. If you have empty space, it means you're not working hard enough, and that sucks you right back in to the cycle that you just worked so hard to get out of. And the problem is that we only recognize where we've been. We have no schema for where we're going. And so when we get there, we think we've made a wrong turn and we go right back to where we had been. And this is what drives us all insane.
Well, especially if it's not, it's like, here we go with another 80s reference. It's the fork, you know. You know, the fork, you know, is always, even if it leads you in the absolute worst direction, you are always going to be more comfortable picking up that particular route, that particular thing, because it's something that you've already experienced, that you already know. And even if it sucks, you know, well, I got through it that one time and it was awful, but I know how to navigate through that. Why do we continually want to choose awful when the unknown might possibly, it's like, yes, but door number 2 might have like the car and the $1 million behind it. You don't know that.
Because we have a story that says, I made it through. And the ego is only concerned about safety. That's all it's meant to do. The ego is meant to keep you safe. So if you have had a horrible experience, but you've made it through, the ego will choose that path every single time rather than choose something that's completely uncharted. You don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know if you're going to get out. We're not taking that path. We're taking the shit path that you hated every single time, because guess what, bitch? We know how to get through that one. So dumb.
Oh my God. I have to share the funniest thing. So this is like when you were saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So people will learn pretty quick around here that my guides sometimes are like a really kind of we'll just say a weird sense of humor. So like you're saying all this and they're like, ooh, you fucked up so good, let's do it again. Like, you know, it's that kind of like, you know, that kind of like horrible you know, like almost a praising of well, you know, you took that route before and you screwed it up so well that we really think that you should just try that again, because you don't know what else is out there and this might be as good as it gets, so you might as well just go this way. And it's like, you know, screw you. Your shoulds are little bricks that you use to build little walls around yourself, and you mortar them with fear and disappointment and all of those other icky, sticky emotions, and you trap yourself from going anywhere.
What is it with you and ooey gooey and icky sticky? What is happening?
I don't know. It's what, you know, it's what's in there, and it's what wants to come out. So
yeah, it is pretty icky sticky.
I think sometimes they like me to use words that elicit a particular type of physical feeling. You know, sometimes if you say these words, you can actually imagine the, you know, either the lovely goo or the icky sticky goo pit of despair, or whatever sort of tar filled, quicksand filled, gross thing that you feel like you trap yourself in over and over again. But yeah, it's nice right now because I can feel like, even though things aren't solid, even though things don't necessarily feel stable in our, old view of stable, there's stuff happening that is slowly working out all of these little kinks and smoothing over all of these rough patches. And it's not super blaringly obvious. It's not going to, go from shitty gray to great big beautiful rainbows overnight, but we're getting there. And that feels better to me. It feels encouraging. There is an underlying feeling of, look, doesn't look great right now. Sometimes it's going to feel scary. Sometimes you're going to be really uncomfortable, but nothing's fallen apart yet. Like, do you understand that nothing's fallen apart yet? Like, you haven't gone off the cliff. You haven't fallen into the pit. You may be walking on the edge. The dirt might be crumbling out from under your feet, but you are managing to stay above whatever it is that you think is going to suck you in. And if you can lean more to the side of, I got this, then shit, I'm going to fall in the shithole right there, you're more likely to actually be able to get yourself out of that.
The image they give me is like, we've hoarded a lot of shit over a lot of years. And just like any hoarder, when it's time to clean stuff up, the mess is going to get uglier before it gets prettier. So the first thing that happens is you start pulling things out of boxes that were once contained. And once you pull those things out of boxes, you have papers strewn everywhere, and you have, items, and you have to separate everything into piles. It takes a lot of
You
work.
have to look at it.
You have to look at it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that feels really uncomfortable and very overwhelming, and brings up a whole lot of stuff. But as you start to clear it away, then you realize, holy shit, I just cleared away like 50 bags of shit I didn't need. And you feel 50 pounds lighter.
And that's literally the physical allegory for creating space. I mean, that's what you're doing with shadow work. So
you're creating space, and you're defragmenting the machine, man. You're getting away. You're losing all of those spaces in between where the pieces need to fit back together. You're and all of those little spaces in between are just the little stories that you told yourself that said that it's not okay to be together with that anymore.
They just showed me Tetris.
Right? I see it all the time. They show me Tetris, or they show me a computer from like 92 where you're watching the defrag happen, because I was one of those nerds that actually liked to watch that happen.
Of course you are.
And I would sit and watch like the shit shuffle around and, see all the colors, the pretty colors lined up together. That made my OCD heart happy. But you're doing that internally, and you're bringing back pieces of you. And I think one of the reasons why I am starting to see more now and starting to feel more of the kind of coming together, pieces of me coming together feeling, is it's not just the shadow work, although in the soul retrieval, there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of that for many years. But I also kind of put out there, I want to see all of those pieces of me coexist again. I want all of those amazing parts of me to come back online together to create a me that is not only going to serve the world best, but that's going to serve me best. And, I know I got a lot of cool bitches in me. and I would like to see them have a party. I would like to have, a round robin with all of them, and I would like us all to exchange stories and information and tips and tricks on how to get shit moving in this world. And, that's the me I'd like to be. And I feel like that's actually the me that I am becoming. It doesn't happen quick. It's not happening overnight. But piece by piece, I feel like that is happening, and it is evident in the amount of in the expansion of my gifts, in the amount of things that are coming through, and in my ability to deal with things differently than I have before.
Mm-hmm.
If I had found, well, let's roll. What's the best way to phrase this? If I took my life right now, as it is, as things stand, and I picked it up and I placed it in 5 years ago. 5 years ago, me would have had a nervous fucking breakdown about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 years ago, me would have thought the world is coming to an end, would have had no less than 10 different physical issues come up at the same time, which would make me feel like I'm dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have panicked myself into a health crisis.
Yeah.
It's not happening now. Is it perfect? Am I perfect? Am I floating through it with the grace of a swan? No, I'm still tripping over myself and, and stumbling into things and occasionally having moments of, shit's gotten haywire and today I'm having a panic attack or today I had to cry for 15 minutes about it but it's nowhere near where it used to be. And I have to be able to look at that and go, you know what? Go you. Look at you, what you just did there. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a real legitimate thing. Take the small fucking wins.
And I think that the ability to recognize wins and allow yourself to give yourself credit for those is a skill that also needs to be learned separate from allowing yourself to do that. There's a lot of skills that go into becoming a new you. And again, when you've been raised in a society that constantly says, go, 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 do, prove you deserve, the message is that, deserving feels like sheer exhaustion and illness after going until you drop dead. And that becomes the only way that you recognize that you've accomplished something. And when you finally step onto a path of awakening, it's completely turned upside down. And your new paradigm becomes, I didn't work myself into the ground today. Yay, me. And it takes a while for you to understand how to tap into a feeling of accomplishment around that, because the old programs are so deeply embedded that they're still there whispering to you that, yeah, but you keep this up, you're not going to have a place to live. The old programs are effing mean, man. They're mean and they're scary. And
they are some gnarly motherfuckers.
They really are.
Nice.
They no matter how many pieces of them that you're able to grab onto and yank out, even if you get big chunks, they're still in there. They're still in there. I haven't
know where you live.
They live in me. They are where I live. They're like, bitch, we're your house. And we
are just outside your window. We can come through that window at any time.
I'm determined to mute them. I'm determined they need to go live somewhere else now, because the truth of the matter is that the life that society says I should strive for is not anywhere near a life I want to live. And when I allow the old programs to win, It doesn't make me any more capable or successful of achieving the life that society says I should have or want. It only makes me less capable of achieving a life that I want and puts me into freeze mode because I'm so terrified and it feels so wrong and doesn't resonate in the least that I feel like I'm abandoning myself. So it always makes it worse. And I can't entertain that anymore.
And I will say that I think that's another gift that our time at Disney gave us, even though it was a really traumatizing time in our life. you know, we had built this thing up to be the end all be all of if you want to be a creative person and you want to build the magic, this is how you have to do it and this is where you have to go. And then we got there, and then it absolutely did not look like our idea of any of those things. And it was, well, I take that back. Not all of it was like that. There were absolutely points of magic, and
I'd
still
say the
are. I
first
can
I'd
still
say
find it.
the beginning years were quite magical.
Yeah.
Things started to shift over time, as I think the beginning years were quite magical because the department that we worked for was so unknown. And
Yeah.
God bless the head of the department, or whatever he was, for wanting to grow the department so that it wasn't constantly in danger of being dissolved because suits who had nothing to do with it had no idea who we were. um, it was a great agenda for him. It built his career and it built the department. But as it built the department, it also changed the department, and not necessarily for the better, at least in terms of working conditions and wanting to be there. When you're more on the map, you're more subjected to the expectations that go with the map. And in the first few years, we weren't really on the map. We were trying to get on the map, and that gave us a lot of opportunity.
Well, and the company itself went through a lot of big changes and is still going through big changes. I mean, it's a part of being a corporation, but I think that's a big thing that we didn't understand, that we didn't have that knowledge of because we had grown up with it before it became a huge corporation, and
I understood it. I
b
just didn't like it.
well, but it was really different, and it's continued to be different. But getting back to like where I was going with it, I think being able to look at something that at one point in your life you built up as, if I can just get here, that means then I'm successful, then I've made it, then I've done the thing. And getting there and realizing, oh shit, this is not it. This is not it. Uh Wait a second. Like, time out. I need to have a little sideline with someone here, because nobody told me it was going to be this way. And then having the courage, and I applaud you because you definitely had the courage a whole lot earlier than I did. But having the courage to go, thanks. And I appreciate the time that I had here, but I'm not going to continue this journey, and I'm going to do something
It was
else.
I didn't have a choice. I was literally eating my soul, and I was the only one really going through what I was going through. I was
Yeah.
being bullied every day. It was like a game of subterfuge, and I was like, why though? I don't understand. And well, part of me understands it now. The part of me that suffered that treatment still doesn't understand what the purpose was. Like, why is that
Oh,
even
sure.
necessary? I don't get it. All I want to do is climb in a window and make it adorable, an adorable little space for people to dream about. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And so I couldn't possibly stay because the inner voice, the inner monologue was like, do you even like who you are when you're here? No, not even a little.
Yeah, for me during that time, I wouldn't even entertain the conversation with the inner dialogue. The inner me was so shoved in a corner and under a pile of shit that um I wasn't even aware. And
Mm.
it took my body basically starting to decay on me and shut down before I was like, perhaps this is not what I'm meant to do in life. Perhaps no. And and that was really difficult. And I had it I I will never forget the day that I left and having to break down for about 2 or 3 hours and then feeling the most. I swear I don't feel like I had taken a breath like that in almost 17 years because that's almost how long I was there. And I was like,
Jesus.
damn, I didn't even realize that I literally had not taken a deep breath. I mean,
Yeah,
physically and
I know.
emotionally,
Hmm.
I had not allowed myself to actually take a full inhalation.
Yep.
And once that happened, it was like, holy cow. Like, how?
Hmm.
How did
Hmm.
I allow myself to go through this? And it's like, well, apparently that's what you needed to do in order to get to here. So,
It reminds me of the what was it? The Black Knight? Is that who that is from Monty Python? Just a flesh wound.
uh-huh. It's
That's
merely a
you.
flesh wound.
Yes.
Yes, it was totally
Yes.
me. It was totally
Yeah.
me. I was going to be like, all of my appendages were gone.
Yep.
like, like my head was going to be next.
Yep.
And the last little bit of me, the last little shreds of me was just going to be my little heart pumping there until somebody decided to run that through too. it was
Hmm.
it was really not a pretty picture. And one of the most interesting things for me, and I think one of the things that made me probably most angry at the time, was that I also came from a household of very much in the space of good work ethic. You work hard. You show them what you can do, and
Hmm.
and if you do that,
Earn your position. You
people are
earn
gonna
your raises.
people are gonna see you,
Mm,
and they're not gonna let you slip through their fingers because you're gonna be too valuable, because
mm.
you gotta outdo everybody else. And I put up with just torture
Yep.
so long. And then when I finally went to my family and said, "That's it, no more. We have parted ways. I'm not with the company anymore." And it was like, "Oh, good. We're so happy that you." And I was like, "Are you kidding?" It's kind of like when you go out with the guy that is horrible for you, and all your friends are like, "Dang, man, like really shouldn't be with that person," but they never say anything. And then you leave, and your friends are like, "I never liked that guy." And I wanted to I wanted to punch my family so bad. I'm like, "Are you kidding? Like, you let me go why didn't you say anything? Like, why didn't you tell me it was okay to to separate from this,
Because
to not do this anymore?"
you needed to do it without external validation.
Yeah, I
You
needed I
needed you
needed to
needed that to catalyze your own discernment.
I needed to reach my breaking point. And
Mhm.
boy, did I reach my
Oh,
breaking point.
man. Yeah.
Whew. but it's so I can be grateful for that now. I was angry as fuck when it happened, but I am
Mhm.
so grateful for it now. And trust me, there are still times when I said, I'm like, gee, if I was still making Disney money, and I wasn't completely damaged,
Yeah.
and like, where would I be right now? And then I shut myself up right away. I'm like, girl, I don't care if they're paying
In the
you
hospital,
$1 million an hour. You
you
wouldn't
would be
be here.
using all of it.
You would not
You
be
would be
here,
using all of it, or you'd be using all of it to pay your medical bills.
which is what I was doing.
Uh-huh.
It's what I was doing. I was that. Trust me, that was the thing that like when it hit me, I was like, "Fuck, that's so mean." Because I'm like, "Girl, you are working to be sick.
Yeah.
You are working just enough to be horribly, horribly sick." And every time I say that to someone, I can see on their face how they're like, fuck,
Mhm.
I know that feeling. Like I I get it. Like I understand it, and I probably need to reevaluate some things in my own life. And but we need things like that to be there has to be a catalyst. There has to be a big bad. There has to be something of contrast to help you to understand that that thing that you've been clinging on to is not you're not clinging on to a safety jacket. You're holding on to a weight that's pulling you down to the bottom. Let go of the weight.
Yeah.
Let go of the cement block, please. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's that's some crazy business.
So
So
when
yeah,
you
so this
were
is what comes out of a random day.
well, my question to you is when you were in the midst of the vibratory defragmentation, were you getting anything consciously that was interesting?
Yes, and thank you for bringing me back to that.
Mhm.
Um, what they were showing me is a building upon what I saw with the vlogger, which was literally, if think about kind of a little more of the it's I'm going to say woo woo, but it's really not because we've proven by science that it's not. If we kind of look at the fabric of our space here that we are sitting in, you know, we know that time is a construct. This is something that we have created to be here. It's been necessary to us. It's been helpful and useful in many ways. Um, but as we are getting closer to these moments where a lot more is lining up and new frequency is coming in and new things are emerging, new not just new us, new earth, new all of the things. It's not a snap your finger and it happens, and it's not going to look like you turned a page. You're going to wake up one day and it's just going to be you're going to go, wow, this is really different than it was just a few years ago. Which honestly, if we look back, we could say that about every few years. But
Yeah.
this is going to be different. And what they're showing me is where there has been very large separation between dimensional space before, that dimensional space is just it's literally like melting away, and one space is bleeding in to the next, and that is part of the it's part of the confusion. It's part of the kind of, anxious feeling right now because there are things that are mixing together that haven't really mixed together before. And so those things don't quite settle real well at first, and it might trigger. stuff to come up.
A lot
But
of
it's
part chemicals.
yeah. But it's blending together like they show me how well it's coming together actually. And they're like,
Good news from the
this
spirit realm.
right? It's kind of the feeling is, look, we know this feels messy to you right now. Obviously, you're projecting that. Like you're uncomfortable. We're very sorry that you're uncomfortable. But this is really coming together quite nicely, like better than you could have ever imagined way back when you said, okay, I'm, you know, I'm going to do the horrible to myself so I can go jump into this fun adventure. Uh, and it's just this overwhelming, I get these moments of these overwhelming feelings of excitement, which is, the stupid way to, is just, it is exciting. It is exciting. It's this, but it's a very big feeling. It's a very full feeling. And there is a certain aspect of knowing that is attached to it that really reinforces that. And I think that's something that, if I look back and go, okay, well, this sort of thing has happened before, and I can look back now and I can see how that happened previously, and I can see how how that sort of a thing is continuing. But I don't ever remember feeling that overwhelming feeling of excitement before, and I never have experienced that knowing that sits somewhere in between the sacral and the solar plexus. That's like a little seed that's germinating, that's like something cool is growing, like something really cool is being created here.
So they're showing me a visual. And the visual they're showing me is a person on a stone path. And all the stone pavers are like cobbles and they're neatly packed together. And the road is very like, here's the road. And then as you move through the timeline, the cobbles start to become less and less compact. And you kind of make a game of it like, stepping stones, and you start skipping from one to the other. And then you also begin to pick up speed, because in order to reach the farther stepping stones, you have to have more speed to make the leap. And what's happening is we're going from a leisurely walk where it's like, and you don't really notice any change, to stepping stones, to, hey, this is kind of fun, to leaping between the stones. And there are fewer stones. There's less connective tissue. So it feels like huge chunks of change are happening. You can see it because there's more contrast, It's exciting.
Things are being remapped. And I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I know I've said this to you before. And I know that I've had this discussion with Bear, my husband. But I can't remember if I've actually said it on a podcast. And something that they showed me. And this is funny. So I've been editing the shows, and I keep referencing about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It seems like about every 3 weeks there is some new just nugget that they've dropped that's like, it may not be new, but it's like I'm seeing something in a slightly different way. And so something that they had showed me was they were giving me a visual of neural pathways. I'm a medical intuitive also, so I will fairly regularly get visions of kind of the body's inner workings, and especially when it concerns to like its electrical pieces and like energetic pathways. I see this fairly clearly, and it's a very cool, like, I always enjoy those moments because it's a neat place to get lost in. Anyway, something that they were showing me was uh, neural pathways, and they kind of broke it down. And there's you have two different systems that you're working with simultaneously, mainly when you're functioning as a human. You have the and this is kind of like in your 3D world. You have your brain, your thinking brain, and then you have the rest of your body system. So they do work together, but especially in your kind of neural pathways area, there every time you have a trauma, every time something big or little, it could be big T or little t trauma, your brain is creating a map that gets overlaid onto the physical portion of those neural pathways. So all the other little energetic electric pieces that run throughout the body that connect to different organs and help your body to function and tell what things to fire at what time and how to work together and how to process. And your brain creates these maps that create detours every time things happen as a way to help you jump over the immediate processing part or any of the emotional part, which our emotions trigger an enormous amount of things to happen physically within us. Triggers all sorts of systems to fire and work in certain ways. But what they showed me was that, we've built a set of maps for ourselves that live in our brain, that get laid over the rest of our physical bodies. And every time we encounter something that looks like that trauma that we had before, your brain pulls up the map for navigating that within the rest of your physical body. And so, you start to experience something, it triggers the memory or the impression of that to come up, and your brain goes, oh, wait, I have a map for that. And goes, okay, so yes, we need to, here's the detour. We need to take this turn and then this turn and then this turn. We're going to skip all of this over here. And then we're going to, go over here. And then this is how we navigate our way through that, whatever it is. And what's happened is over time, we have all of these detours, and we're not allowing our physical bodies to function in the way that they were originally created to. We're not allowing our physical bodies to work in the way that they were originally intended to work, because we've created all of these detours and these other little maps that keep steering the body away from what it's naturally wants to do to help repair whatever that issue is. And every time we have the ability to revisit something and see it from a new perspective and slow down and create a new way of seeing it, we are creating a new map. And for a lot of us, we are remapping in such a way where portions of our physical body is now working in a way that it has never been able to work before, or hasn't been able to work in a long, long time. So there's going to be, the other thing that keeps coming up is, look, there are going to be things that have been disrupting you, physical issues, ways in which you have physically responded to things that are really going to start falling away. And they're not just talking about me, and I have plenty of those. They're showing me this on a very wide scale that on a whole, as a collective, our physical maps are changing. Like, big time. And this is one of the reasons why we are actually able to connect with some of the things that we have not been able to connect with, or, you know, why all of a sudden certain triggers are happening that are not horrible big trauma triggers. They're, you know, they're nice triggers. They're,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you know, how about experiencing this for a change trigger?
Well, like we were saying earlier, it's the same thing that we were talking about, where, you know, what she experienced on that ride, experiencing her mom with her and interpreting it the way she did, wishing her mom had been with her, that right there is kind of the nuance between the old trigger of it triggers grief because her mom's not there, and the new gifty trigger, which is like, no, you don't understand. The reason you felt that way is because your mom was there. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't yet have, it's a new paradigm, so we don't quite understand where our successes are. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a process of figuring out what success feels like when you're going through something that you've never been through before. And the reason we keep on choosing the old pathway and we have those old maps that our brain automatically switches onto is because we're still in transition between the ego being in the driver's seat and protecting us from everything, which means using the
Mm-hmm.
old maps because it knows how to get from point A to point B using the old maps, versus coming
Mm-hmm.
online and being like, I understand that, but we're going to try a different route now and we're going to just roll the dice on this one.
Yeah.
And it
But
takes you
it's,
becoming conscious enough to roll the dice, to make
mm-hmm.
the decision to roll the dice, even though it seems incredibly terrifying. Like nothing in you wants to roll the dice except that little nagging instinct that says, I think we need to do this differently this time. And that's the beginning.
And Spirit has shown over and over again, they're like, look, we don't need much. We need a little bit of space.
Mm-hmm.
We just need a teeny tiny, you can open just a teeny, teeny, tiny bit. We can put a foot in there
Mm-hmm.
and rip that bitch open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. It's fun to
Sometimes.
watch.
Well, it's more fun to watch than it is to go through. I'll say that
Oh,
much for
yeah.
it.
Oh, hell yeah.
I very much enjoy watching other people go through it.
But it's also fun to be shown it in a way where they're kind of like pulling back the curtain a little bit and going, you know, get a peek at this, because there's some pretty cool shit happening behind this curtain.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I don't get all of that, but I see what you're doing there. Like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm down for that. I'm down for that. So, hey, man, the more I can connect with a feeling of excitement, creativity, happiness, joy, even if it's for somebody else, I don't care. It's a good thing, because, you know, I know that there are times in the not too distant past where that was like, I don't think I can get there. Are you done? Poor baby. Oh my goodness.
It
That'll be fun to
scared
edit
me.
later. It scares me too. It's in my
Well,
house.
are we ready to wrap up? I think we
I
should
think we're
wrap
ready
up.
to wrap up. We're right about there, especially since this was kind of a spur of the moment type of
Well, I
deal.
think we've been doing this for an hour and 46 minutes, so that is our usual
Yeah. Well,
time.
this is about the part where, like, when I'm editing, and I'm like, look, don't you move past that mark. This
Why?
is enough.
Why?
Because it's about the part that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start checking out if I have to, like, because
Got it.
it takes quite a while to edit. Or at least right now it does. I'm sure it will get faster as I keep going.
Well, and it'll get faster as we figure out when to press mute, when to shut up, when to let the other one talk, when to answer the other one without stepping on the other one. We're figuring it out rather rapidly, so I'm not concerned.
Yeah. Look, folks, we're learning here. We're learning like everybody else.
No, this will all be edited out too. You're not hearing this shit. No.
Yeah, they are. I'm leaving that shit in.
Oh, God. What? The fuck? Whatever.
Anyways. Thank you.
I don't have a good closing.
I don't have a good closing either, but I'm going to say thank you for sticking around if you're still sticking around, because sometimes this kind of talk is not always easy to stick around for. And, if you feel like you need to like hit the stop button and come back to it later, then hit the stop button and come back to it later.
No, fuck that.
Like,
this shit is the shit to stay around for. This is the only thing that matters.
Look, it matters, but you can't always take it in like one sitting. Sometimes you got to digest a little bit at a time. And I get that.
Whatever.
So I won't hold any grudges. Heather is going to hold grudges.
I might.
So she might. So don't tell her. If it takes a week to listen to one, do not tell her this.
Now we're just yammering. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.